Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning from wherever you are, and welcome to one of my most beloved things to do in this entire world, and that is top 10 lists. And joining me, I have Steve Krogers, and we're going to be doing top 10 MCU battles. This is one on one fights, this is group battles. If people had a scuff, it might be on the list. So keep a lookout for what your favorite is. And remember, as always, this is a collection of everyone's favorites compiled into this list. If you disagree with the list, that's fine. Just put your top 10 or top 5 or top 3 or top 1 in the comments below because I personally love seeing what people's top 10s are. So it's a collaborative thing, not a, oh, you guys suck and your list is terrible thing. We want to see into your world as well. And with that being said, I'm going to pass us over to Steve Krogers to take this bad boy and let's see what we've got.
We've compiled the numbers and put the list together, and I'll tell you what, my spreadsheets never lie.
Well, there you have it. And I have been left in the dark. I gave him my top favorites, but I don't know the results with everyone else's lists being
I am
submitted.
the only person who knows what this top 10 entails. No matter
That's
how
right.
much Zam begs me, I would not tell him.
Did he
I just
beg
wanted
you?
to,
Did
of course,
he?
be a part of the popularity.
Yes, of course.
All right, let's move right into number 10. Number 10 is going to be the Avengers versus the Black Order in Infinity War. I personally love this fight. I mean, it was a very epic reappearance. Even though we had seen Captain America and Civil War the 2 years prior, it still felt it felt like we hadn't seen these characters in a long time. You know what I mean? Like, so it
Yeah.
was a very epic. Honestly, I felt like this was a more epic reveal than when Thor came into Wakanda, later on in the movie. So I don't know. I thought it was very good. It's very ground level heroes like Falcon, Black Widow. They were just taking on these major aliens, and I enjoyed this fight a lot. Actually, I put it on my list, not high, but it was on there.
Okay. It's not on my list personally, but that's fine. I can see why people would like it, especially with the reveal of Nomad.
So for number 9, we have Bucky and Falcon versus U.S. Agent John Walker from episode 5 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, was that after he took the serum?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that was a good. That was actually a good fight. Yeah. Oh
They're kind of
shit.
in that
Yeah.
warehouse type area, and yeah,
Yeah.
um,
That was a good one. That's the one where just after he beheads the guy, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and as I've told you before, and everyone out there in YouTube land knows, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is my favorite Disney Plus show so far, and this is one of the moments that I thought it was because it's like, you got Falcon who has no serum and he's fighting, and then you've got Bucky who does have the serum and fighting, and they're still having a hard time with this guy who John Walker, who I want to say it's funny because I think Bucky's more rusty. Like he hasn't had to fight another super soldier in a while, from
Yeah.
what I can tell. So it's just from what I remember. So it's like maybe he's a little bit rusty. He's just been kind of doing, the cross off the list stuff. So I really enjoyed this fight. This one was on my list actually. It was actually I think towards the middle of my list, and I can't wait to see more from John Walker. Just hands down one of the best antagonists. I don't want to call him a villain because I don't think he's really a villain, but one of the antagonists of the Disney Plus, runs so far.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really well done fight for sure, and it hit the kind of point of no return after the fact as well, which was when he decapitates the terrorist. And I for me, that was one of the few things that I really loved about Falcon and the Winter Soldier was that they went there, and so it definitely deserves to be on the list.
All right, number 8 is the Statue of Liberty fight versus the Sinister Five, or whatever you want to call them, from Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Really, this made on the list. This is one of the most poorly shot fights that the MCU has ever had, and we're talking about an MCU rife with quick cuts and shaky cam. This you can barely see what the hell's going on.
Well,
So I don't know how that made it on the list, but okay.
actually, this one did not make my list. I'm not saying I didn't like the fight, but it definitely was not in my top 10. So I guess me and you are in agreement here that, and
Yeah.
maybe what we'll do is whenever this is released, maybe the Friday night after it's released, we'll talk more about it and maybe get some opinions from people who aren't here today about, the list. Um, I mean, I thought this fight was fun. I love Andrew Garfield as Spider Man. I thought his movies were terrible. I felt bad for him, but I loved
Yeah.
him as Spider Man. Toby, I never liked as Spider Man, but his villains were good, and the movies were pretty good. And Tom Holland is just Tom Holland. I mean, he's a good Spider Man. His
I
movies are
love Tom Holland as Spider
he's
Man.
yeah, and just the Goblin coming back, like all the former villains coming back, I thought was going to be cringe, and honestly, it worked.
Oh, I mean, No Way Home was a goddamn masterpiece.
Mhm.
I absolutely love No Way Home.
Number 7 is Avengers versus the Chitauri. Chitauri? In
Yes,
Avengers 1, or for you across the pond, Avengers Assemble.
exactly. Yes. Now this is actually my second favorite fight in all of the MCU. I just think it was so beautifully shot. There's like this brilliant one shot sequence they do that is absolutely flawless, and just the whole length of it, and it never gets too like, sometimes when you get like, oh, too much action and it's overbearing and all this. With that one, it was brilliantly shot. Like, I might not like Whedon the writer, but I love how Whedon directs things, and the way he directed it was absolutely amazing. And I saw this film in 3D because that was the gimmick at the time, and just seeing that in 3D just absolutely blew my mind. And even now, when I watch it, I absolutely love that film, and I love that action sequence.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
for
me
you,
too. I mean, it
yeah,
was I almost forgot I didn't go. It was definitely a moment in superhero cinema history. It was the moment that everybody had been waiting for, and I felt like it delivered. I mean, it was definitely on my list. It was right a little bit over midpoint for me on my list, where um, it was definitely one of the best action sequences between multiple heroes you ever have. And the last time we had that was like what, Spider-Man 3 with, Goblin and Spidey versus Venom and Sandman. And I mean, I just felt like the way it ended and the way that it was all Loki. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't bogged down by like this big reveal of Thanos coming through the portal at the last minute. And it was just they fought the generic bad guys and then they beat Loki. It was very well done. It was an organized chaos that kind of just it worked. You're right. So
yeah,
all right, number 6 is going to be the Captain America versus Winter Soldier fight in the streets in the Winter Soldier.
yeah. Again, this is like, one of my higher ups, and I thought it was absolutely yeah, a great action sequence. I mean, just a bit where, with the blocks a knife and he flicks it into the other hand and does the thing, was absolutely just a masterstroke of action sequences, and Black Widow getting in on the thick of it and all of this kind of stuff, and just great fights. They had multiple good fights.
I remember this scene, man, when this scene first started in theaters. My jaw was on the floor, and you could tell Chris Evans did a lot of this work in this fight. Like you
Yeah,
can see his face. It is
yeah.
not. I mean, unless they did deep fakes back then, maybe.
No, both actors fought
Yeah,
in this.
yeah, and I
Both
mean
actors did
because
amazing choreography.
yeah, and I mean Chris Evans has always done a lot of choreography. I know he lets his stunt double do stunts, but like when it comes to the hand to hand combat stuff where he's not jumping around, I've seen him do a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I do love the point where it's like and even uh, Sebastian Stan was talking one time. I saw in an interview about him when he had to pull the knife out and he had to flip it in his hand. He did that. Like he
yeah.
practiced
He
that
did that.
for weeks. He
Yeah,
practiced that, and that's why I love these two so much. In that I feel kind of why that's why the bromance between Steve and Bucky, and even Anthony Mackie. Just it kind of goes beyond, because it's just like you can feel that they like these characters so much. And I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
they're all great actors. So
Yeah.
it just transposes throughout all of their performances, especially in this fight. Number 5 is going to be Captain America and the Winter Soldier versus Iron Man in Civil War.
The final fight.
Yes.
Yes, fantastic fight. I don't have that one on my list, but I did enjoy it. Um, yeah, I don't know why I don't have that one on my list because again, it's really well shot, really well choreographed. The intensity, the reasoning behind it, as well. You know, they went there. They didn't just think, okay, you know what? I understand. It was like, no, you killed my parents. You must get it. And just the intensity of that scene, yeah, was really good.
It's so emotionally charged. I love it.
Yeah,
And even towards the end you can feel it. And it's the little things that matter, because it's like, like at the end, and we all talk about this, but it's like at the end when Cap goes to lift the shield up, and like, and Iron Man or Tony goes to put his hands up over his face because he doesn't know if Steve is going to take him out.
yeah,
Like, and so he puts his hand over his face, and Cap just puts it right in his arc reactor in the center, and it's just like, in that moment, I swear to God, I thought he was going to hit him in the head too. Like, it was just so emotionally
yeah. You thought it
charged.
was gonna go, then that would be the end of like that would be Robert Downey Jr. bowing out of the series unexpectedly, but no, yeah, it was arc reactor shut him hold down, and it just brilliant.
Number 4, the battle on Titan from Infinity War, with Doctor Strange, the
Oh,
Guardians, Spider Man, Iron Man. I think that was everybody, right?
yeah, I wouldn't put that high up on the list, but it was a good fight, ruined by Peter Quill
Oh yeah, he's
and
a
his
douche.
idiocy, douche. But yeah, that was a really well done fight. Again, the way they execute their powers to kind of hold back Thanos, and yeah, just a frustrating end to that fight. But it was a really good fight, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, and I do love the one moment that always sticks out to me in that fight is when, after Nebula comes in and like crash lands and tries to take out Thanos, and then she comes out and they trash talk each other.
Yeah,
He's like, oh, you should have killed me when you had the chance. And Thanos is like, ah, it'd been a waste of parts. It's like grunt level trash talking between like two aliens.
yeah,
It just hit me so funny. I was just like, that's absolutely hilarious that they're trash talking. Um, yeah, the ending was good. I always go back and forth about the whole time stone thing. Like, like, should they have used it? Shouldn't they have? Well, and I know they needed to get to where they needed to be to make the end of the movie what it was.
yeah. I
So
mean, you could pick apart everything, but at the end of the day, it's just like just yeah, you had to just let it play out
yeah,
in the end. Yeah,
and
otherwise the
unfortunately,
time stone could have got them out of a lot of predicaments. It could have just, you know, rejigged the whole thing every time.
yeah, they get right to the end, and then he just rewinds time, and then they start all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanos, I've come to bargain.
Yeah.
So number 3 is the infamous, and this is the only Netflix installment on this list, unfortunately, but the corridor fight scene from Daredevil season 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Now this is pays a homage to a fantastic film called Old Boy, and I thought again it's all done in one take, or made to look like it's done in one take, and it's just an absolute masterpiece of choreography and fighting. And again, your superhero's not like infallible or a Mary Sue. He's just getting his ass kicked left, right, and center. He's kicking back, and people aren't going down. He's going back and forwards. And this is like my favorite. This is like my personal
Hmm.
number one fight in all of the Marvel related stuff. And just I love like this is how if I was a director, this is how I'd be doing a lot of my action scenes. As many one take set pieces as possible. So I'm like, That's more memorable than your annoying quick cuts and shaky cams and all this kind of stuff. I'd rather put more effort into, one shot action sequences, no matter how long they take, than do like 50 sequences of just quick cuts and all that kind of crap. Because this is what people remember. This is what people talk about. And I just, yeah, it they tried to replicate it in She-Hulk, and it just the chasm in quality, it just failed miserably. And so, yeah, this is my personal number one, and I love that show so much. And Disney are not going to do it justice when it comes back, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the truth be told, it is so high that it was actually only on mine and your list. But
Really?
we both ranked it so high that it still made it this high in the top 10. So I
Wow,
mean,
it's
and
incredible.
we're some classy bitches right here. So I
Oh,
mean,
of course,
yeah.
absolutely.
All right. And I agree with just regarding that fight scene. I agree with basically everything you said. It was I watched that scene over and over and over again when it happened. Like when it first came out, I'm like,
Yeah,
I would randomly just turn on. They'd be like, "Why? What are you watching?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm watching the Daredevil corridor scene." They'd be like, "Why?" I said, "Because it's awesome." Like,
yeah.
you
What
know,
more do you need to see? Come on.
exactly. Number two is Team Captain America versus Team Iron Man in the German airport
Oh,
from Civil
really?
War. hmm
Wow. Where was that on your list?
This one's actually pretty far up there. I really enjoyed this fight. So there was one
Ah,
point in it when I it took me out of it, but a lot of this fight scene I really enjoyed. I'm kind of a horror for like you know me. I like Age of Ultron, and as many fallible things as that movie has, it gave me the one thing that I love, and that's just smashing your superhero toys together and just fighting. And that's what the scene did for me. Like I get it, it had its issues. There was a moment like between Black Widow and Hawkeye that really took me out of the action. You
there
know,
was. See, for me, there was just way too much, too many quips, too much comedy in a scene that's supposed to be a fight, an actual fight for something very serious. And the fact that it ends on a serious note is even more frustrating because there was too many jokes from it. I know, okay, you got Spider-Man, you could get away with it, but Black Widow and Hawkeye making jokes with each other, everyone, Ant-Man making jokes and all this, and I was just like, it takes me all right out of what is essentially, again, a really well shot fight, but there
yeah,
are just too many elements in it and too much silliness that kind of took me out of it. Like as much as I love the Russos, their kind of big battles kind of let me down for how they were shot and the kind of dialogue that takes place within them.
yeah. Well, I mean, it as I said, it did that, and there were moments like there were the greatest moments which between like Spider-Man and Captain America. I love that moment between those two. The whole you know Queens, Brooklyn, like that. Just those little things I loved. Um, I do there, and I will sit here and as I said, I'm not moving it anywhere on my list, but I will critique it too. Why was Vision nerfed for most of the fight? He could have
Yeah,
ended that fight quickly. So I
yeah,
agree with you.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
not a perfect fight. No, I
yeah,
agree with you. And if I was going out objectively, maybe it'd be lower, and maybe I should have. But too late now. So yeah,
yeah.
like
I mean,
objectively.
both Wanda or Vision could have nerfed that fight completely. They could have
Mhm.
stopped it in its tracks.
Well, that's why I felt like they should have fought because those two
Yeah,
would have kind of canceled each other out. But
yeah,
uh, Vision was kind of sitting off as like the babysitter, basically making sure something. The giant man thing was awesome. I loved it, man. When I saw that part, I about jumped out of my seat just because I
that
was
was the
like,
best part. That was the
hmm
best part of that fight. Yeah, that and
um,
the ending of what happened with Rhodey.
all right, you ready for the numero uno?
Well, given half of this list, go on then.
Avengers Endgame Final Battle.
I knew that was going to be the number one. I can't put this on my list anywhere because again, like the whole the sequence where all the women kind of get together and then all the fact that it's dark and just the sequence is just not good. Like if you go and compare it to the other stuff that we've had in the MCU, it's not a great fight. Now the bits before everyone comes together is fantastic with Thanos, with Thor, with Captain America,
Hmm.
and all of that. Absolutely fantastic. And the visual of Cap on his own, and then everyone coming in, that part's great. But then the fight afterward is just a big mess. It's a mess of everyone getting in their kind of chance and all this kind of shit, and then it's just like, but it does have some great moments, like with Captain Marvel coming in, destroying all the ships, and going toe to toe with Thanos. I thought was fantastic. So there were that great elements, but then
Honestly, I consider that trio versus the what I call the Marvel Trinity versus Thanos. I consider that a part of the final battle because there's not much of a gap between there, rather than
yeah, I
Steve.
mean that part I would put on a list. If we could just talk that part, I would put it as its own thing. Yeah,
I kind
absolutely.
of wrote that part right into the final battle, though. As I said, there's not much of a break between there.
Okay, that's fair.
I get why you separate it, but
Yeah,
I kind of, in my mind, I always just rope it together because you don't change battlefield, you don't change enemies really, except for
no,
you just kind
yeah,
of broaden out. There was a lot of payoffs in this sequence. So I don't know. I mean, I did rank this battle very high, but that's because I am a nonce, as you would call me, and I'm a milk toast viewer, and I just love it. I love the bashing together, and you know what? That's okay because you
that's
can,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
glorious
it's
glorious
true.
CGI fest.
Yeah,
So all right.
yeah,
Well, with that
absolutely.
all being said, you have anything else to add, my top 10 friend?
No, that is it. Join us again where we'll be doing more top tens down the line. And until then, I want to thank the man with the list, Steve Kroggers. I'm, of
I
course,
like my spreadsheets.
nerd, says a guy with a list of top tens here. That, yeah. Anyway, that is all. Let normality resume. Bye.